I want to teleport to this grass. I want to have my crosshair just before that object. And I'm going to then press Shift E, like so. And it's going to snap you back to position, just like that. Alright, in today's video, we're going to be checking out Agent, the latest class in BDO. The best way I can put it is it's a mix of Archer and Deadeye. At least from my experience, a little bit of Deadeye Archer movement and abilities in there. It feels really good to play. It's basically a better Deadeye. If you like Deadeye, if you like Archer, I think you'll have a lot of fun with this class. If you also like Assassin classes, I think you will like this class. And today we're just going to go through a bit of an ability breakdown, but more importantly, I want to show you some of the cool things you can do with this class that you might not know at face value. But to start off with, we'll just run down all the skills and what they do. So your big damage dealers on this class are your RMBs and LMBs with the Shift and S modifiers. So Shift plus RMB, these are all forward guards, does a knockback and a knockdown. Then Shift LMB. This is actually our ult. This is our BSR right here. That's also a knockdown only on the ultimate there, on the Shift LMB ultimates. Just on the normal Shift LMB, it's just another forward guard. You also have S plus LMB, another forward guard. And that also has another attack as well, another flow state. These all kind of have flow states. If you hold them for a little bit longer, it does another basically shots. So you also have S RMB as well. Usually you start with Shift RMB because Shift RMB can, for some reason, has a gap after using the other SLMBs. So I would always start with Shift RMB if you're going to do a DPS combo. So that's all for forward guard skills there. Next up, you have all of your sort of super armors, your movement skills and things like that. So to start off with, you have your two teleports, WE, where you sort of go behind the enemy and drop grenades. You also have your blink, which you can assign to a hotkey. I personally like assigning it to a hotkey. And you can do some very broken things with the skill. If you saw at the start of the video, I had a little clip where you can sort of snap back into Origin. I don't know if this is intended. It doesn't feel intended, which is kind of why I'm showing it, because I think it should get fixed. But you can also, this is the important thing to note about the blink teleport, is it's based on your crosshair position. So the higher my camera is, the actual better I can get my teleport like positioning. I kind of left that too long. You have to left click to make the decision to confirm the teleport. And if you don't do that, it's going to cancel basically. So as you can see, I'm behind this object, and depending on where my crosshair actually is where the teleport will go. Of course, it has a max distance, so I'm maxing the distance out there. Around about 50 meters or so, roughly, I'd say. But as you can see, if we lower our crosshair, I'm not saying to have your crosshair like at max height, but I do think having your crosshair up a little bit will give you an advantage. Let's say, for example, I know a lot of people that play sort of around this distance with their crosshair. I can no longer bring my teleport beyond this pillar right here. See, it's getting blocked. My crosshairs in the way of this object, and now it won't let me teleport through it, or over it rather. So this is how we can sort of trick the system and teleport over things. So now that my crosshair is raised a little bit, I can Shift E perfectly over the column. You can take this one step further and actually teleport over larger objects as well. So for example, this sort of wall here, normally if we go, let's say down here, this is where we play with our crosshair, I would not be able to teleport beyond this wall. But if we raise our crosshair to where we can see the grass on the other side, we'll let it come off cooldown, we'll actually be able to teleport over and through this wall, giving a larger surprise attack to our opponent, making a very strong teleport in the game. So as you can see, I just basically teleported through the wall. It's very strong, and which is why I recommend having a little bit of height to your crosshair. Again, if you don't know how to do that, you just use your arrow keys on your keyboard to raise your crosshair or camera position. And I highly recommend doing that for this class. It'll take a little bit to get used to, especially when you're aiming your abilities. You kind of have to look down. But I think it's a worthwhile trade-off to really buff your teleports. Just so you can actually go through things, basically. And again, you have WE, which I also want to mention, is you can cast this from height. This is not a skill that is limited to being on the ground. You can WE teleport from high ground, and then you can also, lead into your combos and whatnot, like so. And onto the next sort of abilities this class has. I'm actually just going to zoom in for the demo because it makes it a little bit better. Is we have our knockdowns, then we'll go into our super armors. So you have 2 unprotected knockdowns on this kit. You have your R&B, which is your ranged knockdown. You can cast this from height and knock down players that are far below you, which is really nice to have. And now you're probably wondering what your second unprotected CC is. It is your kick on F. And I miss. We don't talk about those. And that has a 3-second cooldown as well. So I also want to quickly mention on the WE teleport. It has a 8-second cooldown and it only costs 7 stamina. I do want to preface, a lot of these things could change by a second or different stam costs, different distance costs. By the time it reaches live, tonight is the update that agent gets added. We are still on the G Labs as I'm recording this. Your third and final knockdown is on Shift R&B on the flow. So holding that down, you have the flow, you can get a knockdown off as well. A little bit more predictable, but it's also protected with forward guard, which is quite nice. Next up, SA, super armor, movement, and damage skills. You have, if I'm not mistaken, you have 15 or 16 super armor skills in total, including R-BAMs. It's very, very strong. To start off with, you have Shift F, which is Bullet Storm, same as Deadeye. You also have Q, which is a flip over the back of the enemy, which is also a knockback. You then have WF, which is another one where you jump behind the enemy. And you can chain this with with Q, and you can sort of hop. This is something I figured out. It's a very smooth flowing skill transition. If you go WF into Q, you can basically hop off the ground without actually touching it. I'll probably do a pause frame, but you can sort of like effectively B-hop chain into the skill. So again, into Q, and you can basically have a really smooth transition doing both of those flips back to back. Next up, you have E, which is a gun butt. This is also, I believe, a stun for memory. Your C, this summons your Hex round drone, and it just goes and attacks the closest enemy. You don't actually have to be looking at them, and it'll still just sort of damage them a little bit, which is quite nice. That has a really short cooldown as well, 10 seconds. You can pretty much just keep casting that. It's going to help you out. You know, when you're dealing damage and things like that. Next up, some of our more sophisticated skills. You have a Shift Z R-BAM. This is also an iframe. It's basically like a smoke bomb. You chuck a smoke bomb, and you have a little iframe in between the 2 essays. Really nice. The other option for that R-BAM is Shift Z, which is sort of a stun grenade. So that provides a stun, as it's suggests in the name. So you can pick between what you like here. You don't get that iframe on the stun grenade. It's a forward guard in between, but you also have super armor as well, which is quite nice. So as you can see, that's really nice to have. Pennant, Shift X. Shift X is a little bit like the SE on Deadeye without the rockets, where you sort of dash and glide back. Really good for movements, I would imagine. You can also bind this one to a hotbar, because I personally don't like pressing Shift X. Shift X is kind of an annoying key to press, so I actually bind this one to my mouse, just so it's a little bit easier to press for movements. On top of that, you also have SF, which is sort of a 360, you sort of spin your gun in the air kind of thing. You also have Shift C, where you sort of throw grenades in the air and shoot them. There's also Run and Gun. Similar name to Deadeye's Run and Gun ability, but it acts a little bit differently. Instead, you sort of just do a little dash to the side and fire a couple times. It also is a lot shorter. And you also can't reset it because there's no obviously switcheroo or anything like that. But you can also chain off of your run and gun by pressing W and LMB afterwards and do a little forward dash like so. So you can continue in that way and get more super armor out of it. You can actually just do a forward and LMB dash as well by itself. Again, that does take the cooldown, so you can't chain it off of the run and gun. It's up to you how you use that. You can do it in reverse as well, where you could go a dash into a run and gun. You also have tack roll, exact same keys as Archer. So this is A and D and R and B, like so. And you also actually throw a grenade behind you. I personally haven't found too much use for that grenade that goes behind you, but you can sort of flick it and flick your character away as you move. So you could, for example, go bang. It's got a decent amount of range, and that's also a stun as well. And that's also an iframe. On top of that, you obviously have your standard Shift W or Shift A and D, Shift S, your iframe, which also can be extended with another shift to tag on a super armor, which is quite nice for movement. So that becomes basically a double dodge with a super armor at the end. You can also keep casting the dodge. It's just not going to have any protections until the cooldowns are back up, which is very quick. It's both 3 seconds. On top of that, your attack roll is 5 seconds. So you have a lot of protections and a lot of short protections on this class, which make it very strong. On top of that, you have the space modifier, so space flow. Very similar to Archer with Meteorite. Any ability you cast, for example, we could shoot and we can hit space and we do a super armor dash. So you could, for example, chain a WF into a space, into a attack roll, into a Q, into a double dodge, and then you could sort of reset and loop those skills continuously. And at the same time, all these super armors and flow states use a very little stamina. From what I've noticed in my experience chaining skills, especially super armors, is the stamina management is very good on this class. Probably some of the best I've seen with such a mobile class. I would say it's definitely better than Deadeye. Like, you can pretty much permanently keep these super armors up. It's kind of fucking crazy, actually. And again, I'm still practicing, but you can pretty much be in a permanent super armor state with no gaps. The only problem is, your big damage dealers are your forward guards, so you need to position properly to actually get damage in. You can do damage with your essays, like, don't get me wrong, your Qs, your shift Qs, your things like that will do a lot of damage, and they also have a lot of stuns, but in comparison to your shift LMBs, your heavy hitters, you've got shift Q, which is one I don't think I showcased, but that's a down attack. So let's go for a knockdown. We'll go for a re-CC into a shift Q finisher, and that's going to be a lot of damage right there as well. Again, shift Q, I'd say, is very situational because it is a forward guard, as you're rooted in quite a long animation. So again, that's sort of your main sort of kit overview, if you will. You've got a lot going on. You've got skill add-ons. These are not the best skill add-ons. This is just what I'm messing around with. Bulletstorm, I sort of put DR strip and DR on. So that's, like, again, similar to Deadeye. I do the same thing. Because you're very static, it's a lingering super armor where you can sort of chill in a pack, where you want to strip people's DR or possibly, you know, keep yourself a little bit more protected. I'm not quite sure how this class is going to stand in, like, main ball and things, because we don't really have a proper way to test on the G-Labs yet, because G-Labs damage is completely broken. The teleport I was talking about, you're probably wondering how I do that snapback that I showed you at the start of the video. The simple trick to this teleport is you need to get your crosshair to right when it's sort of over the clip, but it's also just before the object that you want to teleport over. So this might sound a little bit complex, but all you need to know is get your crosshair just before the... So for example, I'll go into cursor mode. I want to teleport to this grass. I want to have my crosshair just before that object. And I'm going to then press Shift E, like so. And it's going to snap you back to position, just like that. Not too many uses for that snapback sort of, like, I guess, rather exploit, to be honest, of the Shift E / blink. But you could sort of make it work. You can probably do like a reflank with it. Again, I'm putting this blatantly in the video so PA sees it. I have submitted the bug report, but I also think it's going to get patched faster if I just put it at the forefront of a video. Anyways, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully some agent highlights if everything goes well. I'm going to be streaming everything over on twitch.tv, learning the class more. You know, I'm not the most familiar with it yet, even though I do have a solid understanding of the class. I want to get really good at this class. It's a class I thoroughly enjoy. It is a bit of Deadeye at the end of the day. I love my Deadeye, but she's going to have to step aside while Agent takes the forefront for a little bit in PvP especially. Really excited to see how the class goes in PvE grinding as well. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.